Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Voice Mood. I'm your host, Olivia Peck, your local millennial voice teacher. Yes, ask me your singing questions today. Anything you're wondering about singing, ask your questions in the chat. We've got a great agenda today, so I'm really excited to get started here. Let's go ahead. Let's get into the agenda. A little Q&A. We love it. All right. So, a few things. Hey, we've got all James music here. Yes. We've got a few things to talk about. Warm ups, of course. Everything on the right hand side. That's stuff that we're definitely gonna cover. But of course, ask your questions. Any burning questions from the week. I'll tell you, I had quite. I'm flying in here from teaching lessons in the city, and I was like almost late to this. So I'm really happy to be here with you guys. All right, so little housekeeping as per usual. Join the Facebook group. There's a link in the YouTube description stuff for sure. If you want to become a student, you can also do that at oliviapeck.com, of course. And I'm pulling from both of those to answer some questions today, some topics. And I've got a workshop coming up, so stay tuned for that. All right, moving right along here. Some very fun stuff in store. So this was a discussion we were kind of starting to have in the Facebook group. These are the kind of intriguing things we get to talk about. We hear things differently depending on who we are. As we know, timbre is made up of two things. So timbre, it's the type of sound you hear. So a soprano sounds different than a trumpet. A trumpet sounds different from a trombone, even if they're playing the same exact note. That's what timbre is. It's the sound quality. Timbre is made up of two things: the person hearing the sound and the person or instrument creating the sound. So, with that being said, one of those variables is the person listening to the sound. And so if someone says, "Hey, that person always sounds flat to me," or "That person always sounds sharp to me," it could be because as a listener, we have different preferences and we hear things differently based on who we are. So, kind of interesting, right? I don't know if that's something that sounds familiar to you, then let me know, because it's kind of an interesting thing that I come across quite a bit. Uh, so something that you might remember is the whole Yanny and Laurel situation. Do y'all remember this, or am I insane? Am I just always thinking about weird stuff from the internet? Yanny and Laurel is the perfect example of how the listener hears something different, even if we're all hearing the same thing. You know what I'm saying? All right, so Yanny and Laurel is when there was that video that was like, Yanny, Laurel, and you couldn't tell if it was Yanny or Laurel. Hey, hey, hey. Yeah, let me know when you're here, and tell me where you're from. Hey, we've got two Justins in the chat right now, which is kind of funny. It's kind of awesome. All right, so as we age, it's common that we start losing our ability to hear the higher frequencies of sounds, and that's why maybe someone younger might hear Yanny while someone older might hear Laurel. Hey, hey! All right, we've got everybody here. The whole gang's here, and I'm really excited. If you're new to the Voice Mood, welcome. I'm Olivia, if we haven't met before, and so happy you're here. So happy you're here. All right, so this is kind of a quick video with the Yanny and Laurel.
Laurel. Laurel.
All right, so what this person's going to do is they're going to remove some frequencies, and you'll hear how the sound changes and why this matters. All right, so he's removing the higher frequencies.
Laurel. Laurel.
Okay. So you hear that? Removing the lower frequency. Okay, so in a nutshell, that's why some people hear different things. You might pick up on more higher frequencies, Maybe because you're younger, or maybe that's just you. You might pick up on lower frequencies. That's why we hear different things. That's why we perceive different people's sounds in our own way. Like that person sounds rough or soft or whatever. We have different words we say. All right, so we've got a question here. I keep trying to sing songs, but I can't because of my breathing. Okay, so anytime breathing comes up, thank you so much for asking your question. Y'all ask your questions. Anytime a topic, the topic of breathing comes up, it can get pretty nuanced. So if you want to throw in more details, you can as I answer or talk about this. Breathing is pretty individualized, as you may or may not know. So, depending on your voice type, you might need more or less. You might even think you're running out of breath. Here's the kicker. You might think you're running out of breath, but actually, you need to make a smaller breath. There's a lot of crazy things that happen while we're singing. Like, let's say you are singing really in a higher part of your range and you're running out of breath. It could be because you took too big of a breath and air's escaping and you're trying to create this airy light sound, but air's escaping. It could be because you're holding in air and it's hard to manage and it feels like you're running out of breath, but really you're just holding it in. Those are two things where you are breathing, but you feel like you're running out of breath. But let's get some more details. I can't sing more than like 7 to 10 seconds without running out of breath. Okay. Let me ask you this. Do you run out of breath when you're talking for 7 to 10 seconds? I'm guessing no. Now, if that's the case, that means when you're singing, you're either expelling more air than you need to, maybe because of a breathiness thing, like I was saying, like Billie Eilish is a perfect example, and you'll hear her talk about this, how it's hard for her to maintain a pitch when she's doing that effect. You definitely don't want to do that all the time. But if that's something you do, that soft, whispery voice, or if you're singing in head voice, you may just be pushing that air out more than you need to. And this kind of ties into the oversinging topic. And that's why using your speaking voice to inform your singing can really help, even with breathing. So maybe just peel back a few layers, get back down to your speaking voice and start with that. That might help. But let me know if that resonates with you, and if not, we can kind of go further with that. So okay. So no, it's my chest voice. I'm too scared to sing about B3 anymore. Okay, so chest voice, I will say anything above. Above. Okay. Anything above B3 anymore? Okay. So, chest voice in your lower range typically does take a little bit more breath. However, a little bit more to create a fuller sound. Now, it shouldn't need huge amounts of breath, and that's where I would say chest voice, mixed voice, they come from your speaking voice. It's very hard to actually execute that, though. So a lot of times when we sing, we might go, I heard that you settled down. It's pretty loud. Well, you actually can dial it back quite a bit. I heard, it's basically in my speaking range, that you settled down. And so it could be just too much volume, pushing too much. And again, we'll talk about this. That's very hard to recognize on your own unless you kind of force yourself to bring it down like 10 notches. And I know there are a lot of people, yeah, I'm loud when I sing. All right. So, and then you just got to ask yourself, what's the natural volume for you? What is actually natural? How loud is your speaking voice? and go from there. So, really good topic to talk about, and we're definitely going to talk about this more as we go on today because breathing, over singing, it's a very common thing, you guys. Like it's probably the most common thing that singers deal with, like over singing in some way or over breathing, something like that. So here we are. Here we're talking about over singing. There are a number of ways people over sing, and go ahead and ask me if you have any questions about this. So over singing in your warm up. I can't tell you how many people say to me, "Oh, I stopped warming up because it doesn't feel good. I feel tired afterwards." So it matters how you warm up. I'd rather have you not warm up at all than get worn out from your warm up. So let's say your warm up is ah. Okay. So when you are doing that, just keep in mind you want to do your warm-ups how you're going to sing it. You're not going to sing like if you're singing right now I'm in a state of mind. Why would you warm up like no, you wouldn't. You would warm up like you want to set the tone, right? So that's something to think about. A lot of people over sing in their warm-ups. Um in your songs, you don't hear Taylor Swift go, we could leave the Christmas lights up till January. Yeah. She doesn't do that because it's not necessary. Okay. And for the tone of the song, all she does, she's just singing. She's just singing. We could leave the Christmas lights up till January. I tell you what, I am barely singing when I do that. And Taylor Swift can belt. And this is something I tell a lot of students all the time. Taylor Swift can belt, but she chooses not to because she knows she doesn't have to belt. We all get the picture. She's telling us a story, okay? We can leave the Christmas lights up till January. A lot of people over sing in their car. Okay? It's like you can't really hear yourself very well in the car because the road noise in the car, it's a very like dead space. So you might be over singing in the car and you might be developing some tricksy habits. Okay. If you're over singing in the car, you don't want to carry that over singing into your practicing because it's not going to feel good. It's going to wear you out. It's okay. We all do it. We all do it. All right. In your house, are you over singing in your house? What room are you singing in? Are you singing in the closet? Are you singing in the kitchen? It matters. We have not only is singing in your car has bad posture. I've heard this as well, and that's a good point. If you're crunching over in the car, that's a good point. Now the reality of it is it can be good to sing sitting down or, in different positions because I see people taking too big of breaths sometimes, and if that's something you do, maybe kind of like chillaxing and even like crunching over might be a good experiment. You might realize you don't need as much breath as you think you do for like contemporary styles. And even sometimes non-contemporary like classical singing, people also overbreathe. So it's something to kind of play around with. All right, some people, this is also very common, over sing on stage. Okay? That's a really common one as well. So on stage, you get excited, you might overbreathe, you might sing too loud. It's really common to on stage get a little excited and then overdo it. And it's like, wait, I didn't practice like that. What the heck happened? Very common. Anyway, it's something that comes up a lot, some things to think about. Um, And so yeah, just think about it. Okay. All right, moving on. This is a good question. Why is mixed voice so hard to master? I've been trying to do it for years. Yeah, I do an hour of warm-ups. Holy cow, an hour of warm-ups. Chris, is that true? That's a long time. Okay, mixed voice is hard to master. Guys, if you're struggling with mixed voice, there's a couple things. First, it could be that your voice is naturally more full and airy. I have some students where they naturally have like an airier, even speaking voice. Maybe there's some reason your vocal folds aren't coming together to create that sound. Okay, that could be just your body. Now, if you take a really deep breath and your diaphragm's pulling down and you don't have that big of a voice, you have a medium or light voice, your diaphragm's pulling down on these muscles, your vocal folds are spreading apart and it's not going to create that clear mixed voice sound. So, your breath matters for mixed voice. I call it threading the needle because it takes less breath. You might have to think small, think meow 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 meow, think gentle. That's the way I think of it for mixed voice. It took me a very long time to master mixed voice myself because I was used to taking really big breaths and thinking like nasally for mixed voice. It can help to be a little more nasally for mix, but I think what helps more is to thread the needle, dial it down. Meow. Find that pingy sound and use that to find that mixy placement instead of trying to mimic a mixy sound. Because if you're good at mimicking, you might run into a problem with mixed voice because it takes a lot less push and air. All right, and we have a comment about mix here. I feel the mixed voice air pressure in my head feels fine, but the output sounds hard pushed and have been asked if I'm in pain. I'm not. Certain mix sounds distorted. Okay, let's break this down. This is a great comment here. So different voices sound differently. Everyone's mixed voice is going to sound different. That's the other thing. Great example of this is when I, as a voice teacher, was trying to figure out what Benson Boone was doing, but I, for the life of me, could not because every time I was trying to do it, it wasn't sounding the same because my voice is so different from Benson Boone's, and that's generally how I communicate with you guys. So what did I do? I had to go to look at some of these guy teachers and see what they said, and sure enough, then it made sense because if Chris Lipe talks about how Benson Boone does it, that makes a lot more sense instead of me trying to figure it out with my voice, which is very different. So all James is saying, okay, my voice sounds like this and I know I'm in my mix when I'm doing this. I've attached, mixed voice with this sound and this feeling. It's going to be different for everyone. It's going to be different. Okay, here's a good question. What about having not enough water? I notice that affects my singing and breathing. Great point. So getting in touch with what you need, okay? Water is a huge one. Sleep, I know we've talked about that before. Sleep is a big one. And I'm glad you said external effects. So when you're trying to sing in that mixed poppy voice, pop, it's that very it's a lighter sound. I know you might not believe it because of how amplified the microphone makes it, and some of those bigger voices like Adele. Some people do have bigger voices, but for the most part, mixed voice, pop music, rock music, it lives in this very like throwaway speaking volume area. Okay, if you are swollen because maybe you're dehydrated, maybe you've been overusing your voice, it's very hard to create a mix. Let me say that again. If your vocal folds are swollen, it's very hard to create that desired poppy sound, and you'll end up trying to push and make it and do all these different things. It should come naturally. It should feel natural. If it feels pinched, you might be over singing and creating a swollen vocal folds, and you might not be getting that desired. "Ah." I can't do that every day. If I have really bad allergies, a cold, I can't make that nice, free, poppy sound. So yeah, I have a natural head voice. Yeah, so everyone's different. Everyone is different. All right. So here's another good one. Was told to go to ear, nose, and throat doctor today after singing to see if I had blockages, but I don't think I've had problems growing up. Blockages. Okay. So I'm guessing with sinuses, yeah, ear, nose, throat, literally. Could be something ear in your ear or uh nasal. So, um that's, I guess, because when you have some sort of blockage, you might have postnasal drip. You might have a something that's obstructing the way you're hearing yourself, and then you push more. That's where like blockages, I would say, affect your voice. And then what happens is you end up straining. Um, You know, I noticed when I was living in Michigan, it was very dry up there. I did have more post-nasal drip. I did have more illness, and I was singing a lot more. My vocal folds were swollen a lot more. So it could be just overuse also. And that's something to think about as well. Sometimes we think something's wrong with us, you guys. And yeah, there might be something wrong. You might have some sort of hormonal issue. You might have a chronic condition, which will also probably bring up. There's different things that mess with your voice, but sometimes we're just tired and we need to make sure we rest it. And we need to make sure we're checking in every second to make sure we are not overusing our voice. I do have a question. I feel like tenors and pops stay in mix, like Adam Levine rarely goes into chest. What a great observation. So this is this is pretty common for pop singers to um go into mixed voice quite a bit. And I think that's what a lot of voice coaches and why we get stuck in, y'all, don't bring your chest up too high, because we know and we've heard you don't really need to. You don't really need to belt out super duper loud. In fact, for this exact Q&A, I was looking up singers that have really heavy voices, really big voices, just to show you guys as an example. And Michael Jackson came up. Michael Jackson has a very light voice. So you can be this extraordinary singer, seemingly big voice, to everyone else, but in actuality you just know how to perform and you know how to execute it in a way that seems big, but really it's knowing how to use your talent and your voice. And it can feel daunting, but you know, um it's something that you just have to explore, and with time you figure it out. And y'all are all fabulous singers and creative people, so you'll find your voice, and it can happen a lot faster than you think. All right. A topic that came up: buzzwords. Why are they important? Why is this stuff important to us? Just a quick thing. Some people use words like low and high and placement, and kind of what we were talking about earlier, how everybody has a different voice, everybody's sound is different. Well, everybody kind of has their own links in their head what these words mean. When I say low, I mean low, like a low note, a low pitch. But sometimes I'll say low to someone who clearly thinks I think low as in the volume is lower. These are the types of things like to kind of keep in mind as well when you're learning to sing and as you're kind of developing your own vocabulary for singing. So I wanted to point that out. Thank you guys. You guys have had some really good questions. All right. I had a student who was like, can you talk about this a little bit more, the light, medium, and heavy? There is a really great way to describe our voices. and especially when it comes to contemporary music, microphone music, and that's whether you have a light, medium, or heavy voice. To put it simply, you typically will be able to detect someone's weight of their voice by listening to them speak. If someone is, "Hey, I just got in from Montana. How's it going?" Whatever, they're really loud and they talk loud all the time. They might have a heavier voice and not lose their voice, and they don't lose their voice ever. They might have a heavier voice. A lighter voice are more soft spoken, maybe light, just what you'd probably expect of a light voice. Medium, somewhere in the middle. Medium voices, something that Matt Edwards says, medium voices typically have analysis paralysis when they sing, or it's common for them to have analysis paralysis because they're not sure if they want to use like that heavier voice they have access to or that lighter voice they have access to. So if you suffer from analysis paralysis, you feel like you can do both heavy and light, you might be somewhere in the middle. So let's look at this question here. The hard thing for Christian music is songs to start in chest that go to an octave, and that's hard. Yeah, that is difficult. So yeah. So when you are singing a song and it's spanning a whole octave, or you're going, whatever. It really takes some slowing down, breaking it down. What are you going to do? I was just talking about this with a student this morning where he was starting in his lower range and he was singing in his head voice. So he was like, da, 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 and then he was going up higher and he was going, ba, da, 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 and then he was going up high up here, but it was feeling wrong. Like he wanted it to sound easier. Okay. And I said, you know what? It's probably because you're coming from this low part, da, 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 and then you're using that same placement ba, da, da, up here, but it's not working for you. So you really have to take a step back and go, okay, what am I going to do for that higher part? I'm going to go, I'm going to switch more speaky, maybe more in your mix, or maybe head voice. Oh, you have to pick one. Which one are you going to do? Maybe something in the middle, but you have to choose what you're going to do. And then you have to adjust when you get there. So singing low, and then you're going to adjust to your mix or adjust to your head voice. You just have to plan ahead, either while you're singing, you're looking ahead, or practice it beforehand. Okay, Nicole, so happy to see you. Hi from Sydney, Australia. I have trouble taking technique and correct sound tone to my actual songs. Is there in between practice steps? Sometimes I use old nursery rhymes. That's so fun. Okay, Nicole, this is such a good question and something I talk about quite a bit and use with a lot of students. So let's say you want to sing a song and you want to be in your chest voice. Okay. I would say first sing it or speak it first. I'm trying to think of a good song. Love me like you do, love me like you do. Okay. Love me like you do, love me like you do. Okay, stripping it all away. That's like my chest voice. All right. Let's say I want to sing it in my mix voice. I would say E is a great vowel for finding your mix. E. Love me like you do. Instantly was easier to find my placement if I just think E. Okay, let's say head voice. Oh. All right, so O was bringing out my head voice, that sound. Another thing you can play with, Nicole, is the key. So sometimes the key is making it really difficult to find the right sound. So if you want a more heady sound and the key is low and it's hard to find that that heady sound in your lower range, you might need to move the key. And I would say Moise is a good app for that. But any further questions on this are so welcome because this can get nuanced. And I'm sorry if it didn't quite hit, but I hope that helps. But Sydney, Australia, if you do have an Australian accent, you have that twang. Hopefully, mixed voice is easy to find for you. That's definitely putting that on you. But I find that it's built in. I had a student from Texas, and her mix, it was right there because she was from Texas, and they have a little more twang than we do like in Louisiana. So anyway, now going back really quick to starting in a lower voice, la 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 la, and then trying to switch. It's pretty difficult. Some of my songs, you feel that way. I have start soft chest and then switches to high mix and hard to find balance. I love to be intense when the song goes there, but overdo it. Hey, you know what? Don't we all? We all do that. Okay. It's like the most common thing to do. So if you are going to have to make that switch, just know, you guys, once you figure it out, okay, this is what my chest voice feels like. Oh, that's what my mixed voice feels like. You just have to trust it, okay? And what happens is, this is what happens. You figure it out. Okay, I figured it out. Okay, let's add the drums. Let's add let's add the piano. Let's add the guitar. And now you're singing, and I'm already louder, and now it's so easy to get too excited by accident. It's not intentional. And then kind of forget, wait, what was that chill placement thing I was doing where I really found it, but now I'm all excited. So that's the kind of thing to think about, is in real time when you're performing, what is happening. It's like you can do it when you isolate it, but then putting into practice, you just have to really remember, okay, you have to really be conscious about not overdoing it. And that's why the topic of the day is over singing, and it's honestly should be the topic of every week. How can I find my natural singing voice? This is such a good question. Hi, mixing me lo-fi. I like your name. I don't know if I said it right, but I like it. So natural singing voice. I say leverage use your speaking voice, okay? Because y'all, your singing voice is your speaking voice. It is the same thing. But the thing is, we are taught, it's instilled in us that our singing voice and our speaking voice are different. We're taught at a young age that we're going to switch to our singing voice. And don't get me wrong, that's not all bad. But what happens is we add up and adding things that keep our true voice from shining. And a lot of us, we don't like the sound of our speaking voice or what have you, but really try to settle into your speaking voice and use your speaking voice, sing with your speaking voice, and then we can smooth it out from there. And that's putting it a little simply, but if you're using your speaking voice, you're probably using a good volume, good breath. You're not manipulating your voice too much. So an example would be, if I'm singing Carrie Underwood's I dug my keys into the side, I don't start by going, I dug my key into the side. I'm not going to start like that because that's not me. I'm going to start with, I dug my key into the side of his, and then I can start to finesse it. I dug my key into the side of his pretty little soup. I can start to slowly add little things, but I'm starting with my natural voice. I'm not going to start with like trying to imitate anything or find it by listening. I'm going to start with in here instead of out here, if that makes sense. And I hope that's not too weird of an answer. I hope that helps. Nicole says, Fab, thank you. Hi. Yes, our accent can help and hinder some vowels. Totally. Everybody's accents are so different, and it's so true. Like, definitely different accents make this so complicated because help. Vowels shape our vocal like instrument. Vowels are what shape our instrument as singers, literally. So if you're listening to a singing teacher go, "Oh yeah, just sing oh," and it'll like open up for you. Okay, that depends on your accent. If your O vowel is that's not opening anything. That's pretty narrow. uh, how did I know where my mix ends then head comes in? Okay, this is a really good question. So let's say you're doing, and we do this, we're going to do this in the workshop, the Find Your Sound workshop. So y'all sign up if you're interested. It's going to be really fun. I'm not going to record it. Somebody asked about that. I'm not going to record the singing workshop. It's just for you, and it's for the next 48 hours, like 750. Anyway, okay. When you are trying to figure out like where your mix ends, where your chest ends, use your slide, you guys. So sliding in your chest. Okay. Somewhere in there you heard it change towards the end there. Okay, let's do mixed voice. Very light mixed voice. Okay, that's way higher than I can usually go in my mix. So good for me, but that's not usually how high I can go. But it'll usually right up there. Okay, hear that? It's starting to get crackly. Probably should switch to my head. Okay, if it's starting to sound and feel pinched, okay, don't push it. Switch to head voice or adjust. Like open it up back there. I like to think of like a little baby umbrella or something. I saw another teacher talk about a baby umbrella. Anyway, all right. These are such good questions. Y'all keep asking questions. I love it. All right, moving right along. All right, Find Your Sound workshop. This is the kind of stuff we're going to talk about. And how many times do you go, what kind of style should I sing? What style is suited for me? Well, we're going to talk about that. Here we go. What's an example of medium voice for guys? And I gave some examples here. So if you just joined, hi, hey, hello. If you haven't met me, I'm Olivia Peck. I'm your local millennial singing teacher. And this is something we've been talking about, y'all. Go ahead, jump right in. Light, medium, and heavy voices. And this has been a big breakthrough, a big topic we've been discussing. So here we go. Here's some examples of different voices for y'all to get a good sense. Okay, so let's look at this. Lighter voices. I said Taylor Swift, Paul Simon, Michael Jackson. Medium voices. These are people who can kind of flip back and forth between heavy and light. Okay, you kind of, in fact, Kim Petras, I was like, is she a light or is she a medium or a heavy? Because she does sound very like belty a lot of the time and like for a long time. Like she sounds like she can do that for a while. However, when you listen to her speak and when you really zero in on what she's doing, it sounds very mixy most of the time and not full blown chesty. So that's what made me put her in medium. And then, of course, you'll see like Teddy Swims, I lose control. I can't sound like that, but Teddy Swims can. So he's a heavier voice. Adele, Jennifer Hudson, I mean, come on. She can like sing super up there, belting it out, a heavier tone for sure. But you'll notice some of these icons, a lot of people think, oh, all these icons, they can sing with these huge voices all the time. Typically they don't. They mix it up. They mix it up quite a bit. Like they're not always wailing. In fact, they know how to use their voices. They really do. And once you notice that, you will really pay attention. You'll flag it. You'll start to flag it. Okay, my voice cracks when I use a higher pitch. Okay, so if your voice is cracking, I got to get situated. I'm like, hold on. Voice cracks, don't worry. First of all, voice cracks are very normal. They are telling you that there's a change in your voice. Maybe you're going from your middle to your high range. Maybe you're going from your low to your middle range. And some people like Chapel Roan, who has those flips. Some people have extra little cracks or transitions they make in their voice. It's normal. The way to smooth that out is with your breath control. Big word, I know, but I'll explain. Breath control and controlling your voice. Not a whole lot, but mostly with those two things. So as you're moving up, you have to change as you go up. Depends on what you're after. So if you're just doing a what did I do as I went up? It was all in head voice. It was all nice and floaty. I thought as I'm going up, I am regulating the breath. So I'm using kind of less and less as I go up to create that desired effect. Less and less as I go up, but still consistently pulling it, just kind of like slowly as I go up. That's me pulling in my belly button, controlling my breath. I didn't take a huge breath. You might be cracking if you take a huge breath and then you push it up too fast. You might crack if you push that breath too forcefully. And then really regulate your volume. Like if you tend to get a lot louder as you go up or try to control your voice a lot as you go up, look in the mirror, take a video. Do you visibly are able to see if you're like doing something? That might be an indicator that control, too much control here and not enough like managing the breath, just slowly taking you up and kind of easing in to your upper range. Hope that helps. Here we go. We have a question from Brandon Lee. Hey, Brandon Lee. Thanks for stopping in. Do you have any exercises that can give a clear physical sensation of breath support helping with singing? I understand the concept, but struggle with connecting it with it while singing. All right, let's have a round of applause for this question because it's such a good question. Okay, y'all, this is such a good question because guess what, Mr. Brandon? You're not going to like this answer. Every single person is different, and this ties back into what we were talking about before, which is that light, medium, and heavy voice. Okay, if you have a lighter voice and you're following the instruction of take a big breath, guess what? That might not help you. If you have a medium voice, you're kind of going to go back and forth. You might need a big breath sometimes, smaller breath other times. And look, we all have lighter to smaller to big breaths when we sing, depending on what we're doing. But I would say, like, if you have a heavier voice, that's when you do need a bigger breath. Okay. Now, I'm assuming if you ask this question, if you have a heavy voice, maybe you're taking not enough of a big breath, or you're not managing it in the way that you feel is adequate. Okay. Regardless, you have to take your vocal weight into account, first of all, and then you have to go, well, what part of my range am I in? Everyone in their lower range, no matter what voice type, light, medium, heavy, I would say is going to use a little bit more breath. Okay. If you're in your middle range, start to lose some of that breath. Not as big of breaths, more speaking breaths. Not counting classical singing. Classical singing is a little different. In your high range, kind of depends on what you're doing. If you're doing like screamo, okay, that's like more breath. I feel like it's more open. It's kind of similar to classical singing because you have to kind of keep an openness to it. If you're doing though like and you don't have a heavy voice, you have a lighter voice, it's not as much breath. But if you have a really heavy voice, you might need more breath up there. So it depends, and that's where experimenting comes in. I felt like that was word salad, but I was trying to give the most nuanced answer as possible because breathing depends on you. I think the most gentle way to explain the sensation that works for everyone so far is picturing a string on the inside of your belly button that's slowly pulling towards your spine as you're singing. So to keep it connected to your breath, like I think that's a gentle way of doing. But yeah, it is. But Brandon, would you care to share if you think you have like a lighter, medium, or heavy voice and like what specifically you struggle with breathing? Because um I'm sure you're not the only person struggling with it. Everyone kind of struggles with breath. So that's a really good question. So pop in and let us know more details if you'd like. Okay, medium heavy. Okay. So if you have a medium to heavy voice and you're not sure, another thing you want to look out for medium, uh, something with medium and heavy voices is holding in air. A lot of people, regardless of voice type, but definitely this is the thing. If you're holding in air, so let's say I'm singing, I lose control. Let's say I take a big breath, but I don't use it. I hold it in. I lose control. A lot of people think like they need to take a big breath and then like hold it and then use it a little bit at a time. Lose that idea. You want to take a regular breath and use it up. Don't hold anything in. You might do it without realizing it. A lot of people, they like clench right when they breathe in. That could be something you're doing as well. So something to um, be aware of. But very curious about your breathing struggles. Come on back and let us know how it's going because I am curious. I'm invested in your breathing journey now. All right. Okay, this is something I just want to throw up here. I put the link down below. If you have a chronic condition, there is a website that was brought to my attention on the Voice Teacher Facebook group. You know, I love to bring up that. And it's Chronically Singing, and it's a great website, a resource for people who struggle with chronic conditions, which is a real thing and it affects our voices. And I always like to point it out because I think it's really, really important. We all are dealing with different things. All right, 75% off. Woohoo! All right, I'm going to leave this up here while I ask or answer this question. Hi, do you know of any exercises or what I can do to find my vibrato? I hear it's supposed to find me, lol, it will come, but I want to work on bringing it out. Thanks. Such a good question, Callie West. I so appreciate you bringing it in and welcome. Hi, Callie. So, yeah, this is a typical answer and something that I say as well a lot of the time. Like, you don't want to push it because, of course, we all know what it sounds like when someone pushes their vibrato, like, ah. But, you know, you'll even see Ariana Grande moving her jaw while she's singing vibrato. So, you know, don't be too hard on yourself if you find yourself kind of manipulating your vibrato. So, the best I can say is it's easier to sing vibrato when you find it. When you find it, make a note. What vowel were you singing? What part of your voice were you singing in? What did it feel like? So what I would do is go through your range. Uh, uh, and you can be open to trying to do vibrato. Be open to it. Now don't push it out because as you can see, when I pushed more volume, it didn't really work for me. Um, and I would say keeping it in head voice. Uh, uh, you can kind of think of like a little wave in there. You can think of that stuff as long as you're not like going you know, whatever. Try it on different vowels. E, e. I think O is probably the best one because of the shape. Oh, 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 oh. But those sustained notes make it a little bit easier. Also, this might work. I don't know. Is to go, oh, something like that. So you can try that. It's gonna relax the larynx a little bit, and then you're gonna pop up, oh, and just make sure that you keep that open space, oh, and use that breath down there, and it might work for you. Look, it's easier for some people than others, and just go easy on yourself because some people it's a little more natural than others. I had a student that last week where I could tell she wanted to bring it out, um, but her voice is very light, and she actually has a condition where she she's dealing with some ear, nose, throat stuff, and maybe using that intensity is just too much for her to create vibrato. So there's different factors that you want to bring in. Okay, Brandon, yeah, please let us know. Always experiment, guys, with your breath. That's such a good idea. How to breathe when singing. Oh, yeah, okay. Mix-a-me lo-fi. Go ahead and check out a little earlier when we were talking to Brandon about this, but I will tell you this. So, when y'all are breathing for singing, if you're doing contemporary music, meaning pop music, song music that you do with a microphone, I really encourage you to use the regular speaking breaths that you have. Regular speaking breaths. Start with that. And if you need more than that, use more. You'll know when you need more. But start with that. A lot of times people are taking too big of breaths, or like I was saying, they hold in their air. So that's something to that's what to do with singing. A lot of people overthink breathing because, and I'll tell you why, it's not your fault. We all are overthinking breathing sometimes because we were told to that breathing is the most important part of singing, but that's kind of an outdated philosophy, if I'm being honest. It is important, is very, very important, but it's more about how you manage the breath. It's not about taking huge breaths, and that's the common misconception. It's more about just be normal. It's like when somebody tells you be normal, and it's like it's hard to be normal. Same idea with breathing. It's like just try to breathe normally. Try not to do a thing when you breathe. Some people like that when they're singing, they'll go like they'll make a really audible breath, and all of that just tightened up right before you sang. So it's like just try to breathe normal, try to take a nice relaxed silent breath like you normally do when you talk, you know. But it's so easy, it's hard, you know. Let's conquer our voice struggles, fam. I love it. That's such a positive comment. Thank you so much, Chris. All right. So as you can see, you guys, y'all go ahead and sign up if you're interested in this stuff and you're like, look, I really need some one-on-one, but I'm trying to feel this out. This is going to be really fun. I'm getting signups are starting to come in, and a special deal for those of you who are on tonight. Little hint, hint. It's gonna be a little deal ski. All right. Moving right along. Was there any specific point where singing started to make sense, click for you? Absolutely. So, growing up, I was not a naturally great singer. And this goes along with Callie's question as well. Could you always sing naturally gifted? You get voice gains from vocal lessons, practicing all the time. I just started voice lessons, just curious. Yeah. So Callie and Brandon, similar questions here. And yeah, I always loved to sing. Since I was a kid, I was not naturally, I would say, very good. I loved it. Okay. I I think I was pretty good, like okay. because I did sing all the time. Like, I was one of those kids that was singing in the hallway and I got teased for it. I always sang. And I in choir, like, that was really where I thrived. I loved choir. And in fact, I picked up a lot from choir. Okay. Which is why I'm very passionate about teaching now, because since I loved it so much, when a teacher told me something, it stuck with me and I did not let it go. All right. Fast forward. I really struggled with performance anxiety. Another reason I love teaching, because it's always been a struggle in one way or another. I suffered from losing my voice a lot, probably from oversinging, probably from, I just have a sensitive voice, whether it's the way I'm built, my hormones or whatever. I have a very sensitive voice. I lose it very easily. So basically, it just took me a very long time to find the different voices. For I was pretty much always singing in head voice my entire life. And then I always loved pop though. I wanted to belt. Like, I wanted to sing whatever I wanted. Um but it wasn't until I've taught for a while and I could teach singers for a while, but it wasn't until about 2020, when we were in lockdown, where I was forced to sing quietly, and I realized that I had been over singing pretty much my whole life, and I was able to unlock mixed voice. I was able to find a belt. I realized that I do have a sensitive voice, and I realized how different all of our voices are. So it took me a long time, but I'll tell you, over singing was a big thing for me for my whole life. And I always also, I think I over speak as well, kind of loud. So, anyways, all this is to say, don't come up from a super musical family, and I just love singing, and it's been a journey. More on over singing. Yeah, so over singing is, I think I have a slide coming up here, so let's get to that. So over singing is something that happens when, you know, you're either being too loud, you're singing louder than you need to. Remember, we are in a microphone, okay? The closer I move the microphone, better you can hear me. Farther away I move the microphone, the harder it is to hear me. You have to start to think, if you're singing contemporary music, the microphone's an extension of you. And you have to keep that in mind. Another thing you have to keep in mind is vocal effects you're doing. Like I said, I would try to sing Hurt by Christina Aguilera, and I'd be like, seems like it was yesterday when I saw your face. I would really get into it. Cool. Not cool. I could have just used my speaking voice. Seems like it was yesterday when I saw your face. I could just keep it way low key. Sounds way better, right? So a lot of us, we add on stuff. We add effects. We might add nasal because we were taught, yeah, all the pop singers, they have nasality. Okay. But it's all like tiny amounts. It's not like, seems like it was yesterday. Well, that's too much, right? Some people, they add too many runs, and I would definitely, that's not me. I'm not adding a ton of runs, but a lot of people do that. And it's like, your natural speaking volume and like just you being you. I know it's so hard when people are like, just be yourself, but it truly is. If you have to, like, dial it down, like, just dial it down. A lot of us, when we sing, it's like we turn it up. Now, if you're a naturally shy person, very, very, very shy, I see this a lot. Occasionally, I'll be like, okay, let's turn it up a few notches. Or you'll see it a lot with tweens and teens. Like, okay, I kind of need you to sing louder. Like, let's turn up the volume. Or I'll go like this. But with adults who are really excited, it's usually, okay, let's turn it down a few notches, because most people are just doing way more than they need to. They're singing too loud. And I had a student go, hey, so what if you're on stage and you can't really hear yourself because it's loud? Guess what? Sorry, you just can't hear yourself. You should not sing louder. That's the hard truth. you have to kind of memorize what that feels like, or get someone to get you a PA or some I'm like blanking on the word, but you need to be able to hear yourself when you perform live. You need to be able to hear yourself. But if you're in an instant where in a moment you lose that, you don't sing louder. You have to yeah, you don't sing louder. You just never should sing louder. You should never try to overpower something that's happening. Does that make sense? Okay. Um, and this is something that a student of mine, this is really inspiring. And I told, yeah, you have to trust it. That's the word. You have to trust it. Thank you, Brandon. This ties in. So a student of mine is going to 8 open mics a week. And sorry, I'm just reading a comment. He's going to 8 open mics a week, and I am noticing a pretty big change in him. Okay. So I'm going, whoa. Like I'm noticing it in his personality that he's gaining confidence and he's kind of starting to go, nope, that doesn't work for me. Or, yep, that works for me, because he's practiced this in real time. Okay. This stuff. So this is what he has learned. And I hope that we all can start going to 8 open mics a week. Y'all, his progress has been crazy. He has been watching other singers, and guess what he's noticed? Other singers doing what? Singing really loud, or just doing more than they need to. And he's noticing whenever he sings a quiet song, it builds curiosity and it draws people in. And he's just being him, playing his guitar, and that's working. He's building relationships with local pubs. In the UK, I don't know about here, but that you can get royalties from doing this. I put a link in the description if you're playing your own songs in pubs in the UK. There is, I think it's called the public, I don't know. There's a thing. There's an article about it. If you live in the UK and you are doing open mic nights, check that out. Make sure you know your rights. It's good exposure. It's building confidence. And y'all, we all change a little bit when we perform. We all change a little bit. So it's really good to practice under the lights, under the spotlight, because it changes our state. More millennial cringe. Okay, that's what I feel like sometimes. Okay, all James, this is fun. This is a fun comment. Karaoke nights are the best and worst. Can never hear myself and I'm belting. Love it, but not good on my voice. Benson Boone. Oh, that's funny. Yeah. Yeah, you gotta trust it. You gotta trust it. That's funny. It's true though. I hate it when a karaoke place, their mic is like, beautiful things that I've done. It's like I can't hear myself. What is happening? And then when they have a karaoke place where the mic is super hot and it's super loud, yeah, that always rules. It's like I'm barely singing, but that's the way you want it. You want it to be like you're barely singing. Yeah. Okay. Whoa, we just like covered a lot of ground, guys. I was so shaken by all your comments. They were so good. Please throw in some more comments before we sign off if you have some burning questions, because next week I'm not going live. I'm going to be at Jazz Fest with my parents in New Orleans. But of course, I'll be back the following Thursday, and I'm still teaching all next week. So if you want to sign up for a lesson, go to oliviapeck.com. Y'all sign up for the workshop. I'm so excited. We're going to do slides. It's going to be very low key, low pressure. I guarantee everyone in there is going to be beginner level or like down to try new things. So please check it out, and it's super discounted right now because I just appreciate y'all and I want everybody to try it out if they want to. Appreciate you. I appreciate all you guys. It's so fun to talk singing. I look forward to this every week, and I look forward to being back in a couple weeks to do another live, and there's just going to be more and more stuff popping up, so stay tuned, subscribe, and if you know someone who needs singing lessons and you think I would be a good like fit for them, by all means share my stuff to them. It always helps that way. And yes, grand finale question. I love it, Callie. Thank you. Any idea on what I can do to practice to improve my pitch? This is such a good question. So the first thing I would say is, are you singing along with a singer when you're practicing? If so, it's very common to struggle with pitch while you're singing along with the singer because you might be trying to sing over the singer so you can hear yourself, and you might be struggling with that way. So if you're singing along with a singer, you actually want to not hear yourself very much because you are blending in with them, because you're right in sync with them. You're singing all the same pitches. Might be hard to differentiate who is who, right? But another thing I would say is, if you struggle with pitch, do warm-ups. Do singing warm-ups. If you have a piano, great. If you don't have a piano, that's okay. I like my warm-ups on my YouTube channel because they're really basic, and I do them all in head voice. They're all light on your voice, and they're all like easy scales. It's not helpful when you find a warm-up video and they're like, it's like, okay, that is not a warm-up. That is a crazy exercise. Now I have to spend 3 hours learning that. You want to kind of learn simple warm-ups and do them repetitively, like a lot. So you start to lock in, like, this is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1. Apparently I can't do it on the spot, but you get the idea. Bum, 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 bum. You start to just inherently like know your warm-ups, and you'll start to gain control of your voice that way. Anyway, I hope that helps. Love talking to y'all. Have the best evening ever, or morning, wherever you are. I know we've got a couple of Australians here, and people from all over. So anyways, I'm gonna sign off, but I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. Make sure you subscribe or join the Facebook group if you want to get updates on when the next live is, because I don't want y'all to miss it. And what exercise do you recommend for tongue tension? So sticking your tongue out. You'll start to realize when your tongue wants to slide back. If you're doing and you feel your tongue going back while you're going higher, you might know, oh, as I get higher, my tongue wants to go back. So I need to make sure I keep it relaxed. Now, tongue tension might also be just jaw tension or something. Sing like this. I heard. If you can unlock this, chances are your tongue and your jaw is going to relax as well. I forget what this is called back here, but you want to unlock that as well. That was a very quick and dirty answer. I hope that helped. MD Reviews, welcome. All right, you guys. Appreciate you so much. Have a great rest of your night, and yeah, stay cool. Stay cool. This was the best. All right. Bye, y'all.